The scent of her hit me like a bullet I never saw coming. Vanilla and autumn rain, and my blood spreading dark across Montana snow that October night. 30 seconds earlier, I had been dying. 30 seconds later, I would be bound to her forever. The brown-haired woman with green eyes trembling in the storm had no idea she was about to save a monster. My name is Marcus Stone, Alpha King of the Northern Rockies, and this is the story of how a widowed veterinary nurse with a 6-year-old daughter became the only thing standing between my people and extinction. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. Sarah's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel, her wedding ring catching the glow of the dashboard lights as rain hammered against the windshield. The wipers beat a frantic rhythm, but they were losing the battle against the downpour. She should have left the clinic earlier, should have listened when Dr. Preston Ward suggested she head home before the storm hit. But Mrs. Henderson's cat had needed emergency surgery, and Sarah had never been good at walking away when an animal was suffering. 4 years as a widow had taught her many things, but turning her back on creatures in pain was not one of them. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder. She glanced down, briefly saw Ruth Thompson's name on the screen, and smiled despite her exhaustion. The 70-year-old neighbor had probably just put Emma to bed and was texting to confirm everything went smoothly. Ruth had been a godsend since David died, the kind of neighbor who showed up with casseroles and offers to babysit without being asked. Sarah made a mental note to pick up those butter cookies Ruth loved from the bakery tomorrow as thanks. The headlights caught something in the road ahead, something massive. Sarah's foot slammed on the brake, and the car hydroplaned sickeningly before coming to a stop mere feet from what looked like an enormous white shape sprawled across the asphalt. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she threw the car into park. Every instinct screamed at her to drive around it, to get home to Emma, to not get involved. But years of veterinary training overrode common sense. She grabbed her phone and the flashlight from the glove compartment, then stepped out into the storm. The rain soaked through her scrubs in seconds, plastering her brown hair to her face. She raised the flashlight, and her breath caught in her throat. It was a wolf, but not like any wolf she had ever seen in textbooks or documentaries. This animal was enormous, easily the size of a sturdy pony with fur so purely white, it seemed to glow even in the darkness. Blood matted its coat, spreading in dark pools that the rain could not wash away fast enough. 6 distinct wounds across its flank and shoulder told a brutal story. Someone had shot this creature, multiple times, with intent to kill. Sarah approached slowly, her veterinary training warring with her survival instincts. Wolves were not native to this part of Montana, and certainly not wolves of this impossible size. But the creature was breathing shallow and labored, and she could see the unnatural angle of one leg. Easy, she whispered, though she was not sure if she was talking to the wolf or herself. She knelt beside the massive animal, noting the glint of something metallic embedded in the wounds. Her fingers came away sticky with blood as she examined the injuries. Bullets. Someone had hunted this animal with bullets. The wolf's eye cracked open, revealing an iris of the most startling silver gray she had ever seen. Not amber, not gold like a normal wolf. Silver shot through with veins of darker color that seemed almost black. Intelligent eyes that tracked her movements, with an awareness that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. "I'm going to help you," Sarah said softly, "but you need to not bite me, okay?" The wolf made no sound, but something in that strange gaze seemed to acknowledge her words. Impossible. Wolves did not understand English, yet this one continued to watch her with uncanny focus. A voice whispered through her mind, then rough and fading like smoke. "Thank you. Be careful. Danger." Sarah jerked backward, hitting the wet asphalt hard. Her flashlight rolled away, beams spinning wildly. No, that was not possible. She was exhausted, stressed, imagining things. Wolves did not speak. They did not project thoughts into human minds. But when she looked back at the creature, those storm gray eyes held hers with undeniable intelligence, with recognition. Sarah forced herself to breathe, to think. The wolf was dying. Whatever impossible thing had just happened, this animal needed immediate medical attention, or it would be dead within the hour. She ran back to her car, mind racing through options. She could not take it to the clinic. Dr. Ward would have 1,000 questions she could not answer, and animal control would be called immediately. An animal this size, this unusual, would be euthanized or sent to some government facility. The thought made her chest tight with unexpected protectiveness. Her car trunk held her emergency veterinary kit, some old blankets, and a length of rope. It would have to be enough. She pulled out everything useful, then spent the next 20 minutes rigging a makeshift sled from the blankets and rope. The wolf remained eerily still, those pale gaze tracking her every movement. Never blinking, never looking away. Getting the animal onto the sled took every ounce of her strength. It had to weigh at least 300 pounds, far heavier than any wolf should be. Sweat mixed with rain as she pulled, and maneuvered the massive body. By the time she had the wolf loaded into her SUV, the back seats folded down to accommodate its length, Sarah was shaking with exhaustion. She drove home in a daze, taking back roads to avoid any traffic cameras or curious neighbors. Her small farmhouse sat at the end of a long gravel driveway, isolated by choice and by circumstance. After David died, the isolation had felt like protection. Now it felt like providence. The garage door opener sounded impossibly loud in the storm's relative quiet. She backed in carefully, then stood for a long moment, hands on her hips, staring at the unconscious wolf in her car. "What are you doing, Sarah?" she muttered to herself. "You have a 6-year-old daughter sleeping at the neighbor's. You are bringing a predator into your home." But those wounds needed immediate attention. The blood loss alone would kill the animal within hours if left untreated. And something about those intelligent, silver eyes haunted her. This was not just an animal. Something about it felt different, important though. She could not explain why. The unfinished basement had been David's project, meant to be a home office before Afghanistan took him. Now it was just a concrete room with exposed ceiling beams, a few storage boxes, and a utility sink. It would have to do. Moving the wolf down the stairs nearly defeated her. She used the blanket as a sled again, letting gravity do most of the work while she controlled the descent. The animal hit the concrete floor with a heavy thud that made her wince, but its breathing remained steady. Sarah ran back upstairs, listening at the door to make sure no sounds would carry to the neighbors, then grabbed her veterinary kit from the hall closet, along with every towel she could find. She returned to the basement, locking the door behind her. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, the wolf looked even more impossible. Its fur was too perfect, its size too large, its features too symmetrical. She had treated hundreds of animals in her 9 years as a veterinary nurse, but this creature defied every natural rule she knew. She pulled on latex gloves and got to work. The wounds were deep but clean, consistent with gunshot injuries. But when she used tweezers to extract the first bullet, she dropped it immediately with a gap. The metal was hot, almost burning, and it left her gloved fingers tingling with strange energy. Silver. The bullets were silver. "Who shoots a wolf with silver bullets?" she whispered, staring at the gleaming metal in the surgical tray. Silver was expensive, impractical for hunting. Unless the shooter believed in old legends about werewolves and silver. The thought was absurd. Werewolves were not real. This was just an unusual wolf, possibly a genetic anomaly or an escaped exotic pet. The silver bullets were just coincidence, maybe someone's idea of a joke or superstition. But her hands burned where the silver had touched them, even through the latex gloves. She switched to forceps with rubber grips and worked more carefully, extracting 5 more bullets from various wounds. Each one caused the same burning sensation, and by the time she finished, her hands ached with a strange pins and needles feeling that would not fade. The wolf never moved, never made a sound. Its breathing grew stronger as she worked cleaning wounds and applying antibiotic ointment. She had no way to properly stitch injuries this large, but she used butterfly bandages and medical tape, wrapping gauze around the worst areas. By the time she finished, dawn was breaking through the small basement windows. Sarah sat back on her heels, exhausted and filthy, staring at her impossible patient. The wolf's breathing had evened out, its massive chest rising and falling steadily. She had done everything she could. She looked around this basement, noticing for the first time that the animal could easily escape if it woke. The small windows were at ground level, the stairs led directly to the main house. Panic fluttered in her chest. Using the same rope from earlier, she fashioned a crude restraint around the wolf's uninjured front leg, tying it securely to an exposed pipe near the utility sink. It would not hold if the animal truly wanted to break free, but it might slow it down long enough for her to react. Sarah stood swaying slightly with exhaustion. Her scrubs were ruined, covered in blood and mud. Her hands still tingled strangely from the silver bullets. And in her basement lay a wolf that should not exist, breathing steadily, despite injuries that should have killed it. She climbed the stairs slowly, locking the basement door behind her. In the kitchen, she scrubbed her hands raw under scalding water, watching pink-tinged water circle the drain. Through the window above the sink, she could see Ruth's porch light still on. The older woman was an early riser, probably already making her morning tea. Sarah collapsed into bed without even showering, too exhausted to care. Sleep claimed her before she could worry about the predator sleeping one floor below. Her alarm shrieked 2 hours later, dragging her from dreams of silver eyes and blood on snow. Sarah silenced it and lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince herself that last night had been a fever dream. The basement, the wolf, the silver bullets, the voice in her head, her hands still tingled faintly where the metal had touched her skin. Mommy Emma's voice drifted through the door, followed by the patter of small feet. Sarah forced herself upright as her daughter burst into the room, dark curls wild from sleep. The sight of Emma so alive and innocent and completely unaware of the impossibility sleeping in their basement made Sarah's chest tight. "You are awake." Emma bounced onto the bed. "I am hungry. Can we have pancakes?" Sarah pulled her daughter into a hug, breathing in the scent of children's shampoo and innocence. "How about cereal this morning? Baby mommy is running a little late." "You are always late," Emma observed with the brutal honesty of a 6-year-old. "Ruth says you work too hard. She made me mac and cheese for dinner. The good kind, not the box kind." Guilt twisted in Sarah's chest. Ruth had watched Emma until almost 10 last night, waiting for Sarah to return from her emergency shift. Another debt to repay, another reminder of how much she relied on her neighbor's kindness. "Tell you what," Sarah said, forcing brightness into her voice. "This weekend we will make pancakes together. The special ones with chocolate chips." Emma's face lit up. "And whipped cream and whipped cream." As her daughter ran off to get dressed, Sarah allowed herself 30 seconds of stillness. Then she stood ignoring her protesting muscles and headed for the shower. She paused outside the basement door, pressing her ear against the wood. Silence. Either the wolf was still unconscious or it had died during the night. She should check. She should go down there and verify that her patient was still breathing. But Emma was awake now, and Sarah could not risk her daughter discovering what lay in the basement. The excuses she had prepared about a broken water heater or a pest problem felt paper thin in the morning light. Later, she promised herself, she would check later. The drive to Emma's elementary school was mercifully short. Her daughter chattered about her upcoming show and tell about the friendship bracelet she was making, about how Lucy from her class had said that having a dead daddy meant you were unlucky. Sarah's hands tightened on the wheel, but she kept her voice calm as she explained that Lucy was wrong, that having loved someone was never unlucky, even if they had to leave too soon. "Do you think Daddy watches us from heaven?" Emma asked as they pulled into the parking lot. "Every single day," Sarah replied, hoping it was true. She kissed her daughter's forehead, watched her run toward the building with her unicorn backpack bouncing, then sat in the car for a long moment before starting the engine again. Emma's next words froze her hand on the ignition. "I dreamed about a big white dog last night, Mommy. He said he would protect us." Sarah turned slowly to look at her daughter. "What a really big dog." Emma's green eyes were serious. "Bigger than a horse. He had pretty gray eyes like clouds. He told me not to be scared." Sarah's mouth went dry. "Baby, what exactly did the dog say?" "He said bad things were coming, but he would keep us safe. He said you saved him, so now he saves us." Emma tilted her head. "Do you think it was an angel dog, like Daddy sent him?" Before Sarah could figure out how to respond, how to explain that her 6-year-old daughter could not possibly know about the wolf in their basement, Emma had already unbuckled and hopped out of the car. "Bye, Mommy, love you." Sarah watched her daughter skip into school, fear coiling cold in her stomach. Emma could not have known. It was impossible. Unless the wolf had somehow reached her daughter through dreams the same way it had spoken to Sarah's mind on that pain-soaked road. The veterinary clinic was a 15-minute drive, housed in a converted farmhouse that Dr. Preston Ward had owned for 40 years. Sarah loved the place, loved the smell of antiseptic and animal fur, loved the satisfaction of healing creatures who could not speak their pain. It was the one part of her life that felt uncomplicated. Until today. She was running on autopilot, cleaning kennels and updating charts when Dr. Ward found her in the supply room. "You look like death warmed over," he said bluntly. He was 72 with a gray beard and eyes that missed nothing. A veteran of the Korean War, he had worked as a combat medic before becoming a veterinarian. Sarah had heard the stories, though Ward rarely spoke of those years. Bad night, he asked. Could not sleep. Sarah replied, which was technically true. Storm kept me up. Dr. Ward studied her with the same intensity he used to diagnose sick animals. There has been talk around town. Some hikers reported seeing unusual animal tracks near the state forest. Large canine prints, but not quite right. You have not seen anything strange, have you? Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. Strange how, just keep your eyes open. Could be nothing, could be someone's exotic pet got loose. Either way, be careful driving home after dark. She nodded, not trusting her voice, and Dr. Ward left her to her work. But his words lodged under her skin, making her jumpier than usual. When she took her lunch break, Ward called her into his office. He closed the door behind her, and Sarah knew whatever was coming would not be pleasant. Sit down, Sarah. She sat. Ward settled into his worn leather chair and studied her for a long moment. Preston has known you for 9 years, he said finally. Since you started working here fresh out of school, Preston knows when you are hiding something. Ward, I am not, he held up a hand. Korea 1951, my unit got ambushed at night outside Incheon, heard wolves howling, which made no sense because there are no wolves in Korea. Sarah went very still. Then they appeared. White as snow, big as cattle. They attacked the enemy soldiers, saved 23 American lives. By morning, they were gone. I told my commanding officer what I saw. He said I had combat fatigue, told me to rest. Ward leaned forward, his eyes intense. But I knew what I saw. And I have been waiting 70 years to see them again. The office felt too small, suddenly the air too thin. Sarah tried to speak, but no words came. You have one in your house, Ward said quietly. Do not you? It was not a question. Sarah's hands were shaking. How did you? I saw him yesterday evening. Through binoculars. I live on the ridge, remember? I was checking on you after our conversation earlier, and I saw someone at your property. Someone very large. Ward's expression softened. You are not crazy, Sarah. And you are not alone. David knew about them too. He told me before he died. The world tilted sideways. What, your husband did not die in a car accident. He was killed by a rogue shifter named Garrett Hayes. David discovered that Garrett was planning to expose their kind to the world. Garrett murdered him and made it look like an accident. Sarah could not breathe. 4 years. 4 years she had believed David died because of icy roads and bad luck. 4 years of grief built on a lie. The man at your house, Ward continued, he is one of them, is not he, and he is protecting you. Sarah found her voice finally, though it came out barely above a whisper. His name is Marcus, Ward nodded slowly. Then you need to trust him, and you need to let me help. Because if there is one thing I learned in war, it is this: when the impossible shows up at your door, you do not send it away. You figure out which side it is on. Sarah left the clinic early, making excuses about a headache that was not entirely a lie. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every shadow seemed to hold threats. When she pulled into her driveway, she saw Ruth standing on her porch waving. Sarah forced a smile and waved back, but her eyes went to her basement windows. Dark, silent, no movement. She had to check. Had to know if the wolf was still alive, still safely restrained. Sarah entered her house and went straight to the basement door. Her hands shook as she turned the key. The stairs creaked under her weight. The fluorescent lights flickered to life, casting harsh shadows across concrete walls. And there, in the center of the floor where she had left a massive white wolf, lay a man. Sarah's flashlight clattered to the ground. He was naked, his body covered in fading scars that matched the injuries she had treated. The rope she had used to restrain the wolf was wrapped around his wrist, tied to the same pipe. Dark hair fell across his forehead, streaked with silver at the temples, and even unconscious, his features held a harsh beauty that made her throat tight. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Where is the wolf? What did you do with the wolf? But even as denial poured from her lips, her medical training was cataloging details. The scars on his shoulder matched the bullet wounds exactly. The rope around his wrist was precisely where she had tied it. His breathing was steady, stronger than the wolf's had been. The same silver-gray eyes now closed. This was impossible. Humans did not turn into wolves. Wolves did not turn into humans. She was a woman of science, of education, of rationality. And yet, Sarah backed toward the stairs, unable to tear her eyes away from the impossible man on her basement floor. Her foot hit the bottom step, and she turned, fleeing up the stairs and slamming the door behind her. She leaned against it, breathing hard, trying to make sense of what she had seen. The legends Dr. Ward had dismissed flashed through her mind. Werewolves, shapeshifters, creatures from stories meant to scare children. "I am going insane," she said to the empty kitchen. "That is the only explanation. I am having a mental breakdown." But her hands still burned from the silver bullets, and a man now lay where a wolf had been. She needed to pick up Emma in 20 minutes, needed to function normally, to be a mother, to not fall apart. She could figure this out later. After Emma was safe in bed, after she had time to think. The routine helped, picking up Emma from school, listening to her chatter about art class, and recess, making dinner on autopilot. Chicken nuggets and apple slices, Emma's favorite. Sarah read 3 books at bedtime instead of the usual one, delaying the moment when she would be alone with her thoughts. When her daughter finally fell asleep clutching her stuffed rabbit, Sarah kissed her forehead and whispered a prayer she was not sure she believed in anymore. Please keep her safe. Please let this all make sense. She was sitting at the kitchen table staring at nothing when Emma screamed. Sarah was up the stairs in seconds, bursting into her daughter's room. Emma sat upright in bed, eyes wide with fear, pointing at the window. "There are dogs outside, mommy, big dogs, so many big dogs." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She pulled back the curtain and felt the world tilt. They were everywhere. White wolves, massive and otherworldly, surrounding her property in a perfect circle. Their eyes glowed in the darkness, dozens of them watching the house with uncanny intelligence. They moved in synchronized patterns like soldiers at attention, their presence radiating menace and purpose. "It is okay," baby Sarah heard herself say, though nothing about this was okay. "They are just passing through. Let us go downstairs." She scooped Emma up, blanket and all, and carried her down to the living room. She set her daughter on the couch, turned on the television to a children's show, then went through the house, checking every lock on every door and window. Her hands shook as she pulled curtains closed, as if fabric could protect them from whatever those creatures were. The knock came at exactly midnight. 3 sharp raps that echoed through the house. Sarah positioned herself between the front door and Emma, who had fallen asleep on the couch. "Who is there, ma'am? I need to speak with you." The voice was male, calm, and carried an undertone of authority that made her spine straighten automatically. "My name is Connor Hayes. I believe you have someone who belongs to us. I do not know what you are talking about." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Please leave my property." "I can smell him," Connor said, still calm. "We have been tracking him for 2 days. We know he is here. We need to take him somewhere safe, for his protection and yours." Sarah pressed her back against the door. "I am calling the police." A pause. "Then that would be unwise. Please, ma'am, just open the door. We do not want trouble. Then leave." She heard him sigh, heard footsteps retreating. For a moment, she thought he had actually given up. Then the back door handle rattled. "Stop!" a voice roared from somewhere inside the house, and Sarah's heart nearly stopped. That voice was too loud, too commanding, vibrating with power that made her bones ache. "Connor, stand down." "That is an order." The rattling ceased immediately. Sarah stood frozen, Emma stirring behind her, and tried to understand what was happening. The voice had come from the basement. The man in her basement had just saved her, or claimed her, or something she could not begin to comprehend. And outside, an army of white wolves waited in the darkness, patient as death. Sarah did not move for a full minute after Marcus's command echoed through the house. Outside, the white wolves had gone perfectly still, their glowing eyes fixed on the farmhouse like sentinels awaiting orders. Emma whimpered in her sleep on the couch, and that small sound broke through Sarah's paralysis. She had to go down there, had to confront whatever impossible thing was happening in her basement. "Stay on the couch, baby," Sarah whispered to Emma, though her daughter was already drifting back to sleep. "Do not move. Mommy will be right back." She grabbed the largest kitchen knife from the block on the counter. The weight of it felt ridiculous in her hand, a child's toy, against whatever supernatural force had just commanded 40 wolves to stand down. But it was something, some illusion of control in a situation spiraling beyond comprehension. The basement door was still locked. Sarah's hands trembled as she turned the key, the click sounding impossibly loud. She pushed the door open and descended 3 steps, just far enough to see the concrete floor below. The man stood there, leaning heavily against the wall. He stood there in David's old sweatpants, the gray fleece hanging loose on his hips. Still shirtless, still covered in fading scars. The harsh fluorescent light cast shadows across his face, making him look older than 40. Dangerous, and completely impossibly human. When he looked up at her, those mercury-colored eyes were completely lucid, focused, aware. "Don't come down," he said, his voice rough from disuse but carrying unmistakable authority. "I won't hurt you. You saved my life. I owe you a debt I can never repay." Sarah's grip tightened on the knife. "What are you? Where's the wolf? What did you do with it?" Something that might have been pain crossed his features. "I am the wolf. The wolf is me. We are the same." "That is impossible." "I know it seems that way." He stayed perfectly still, as if aware that any sudden movement would send her fleeing. "But you saw me change. You know what you saw, even if your mind is trying to rationalize it away." Sarah's throat was tight. People do not turn into animals. It is not scientifically possible. The mass alone would violate conservation of energy, and the bone structure would have to completely reorganize, and yet here I am. His tone was gentle, almost apologetic. "My name is Marcus Stone, and I need to tell you some things that will sound insane, but I swear to you, every word is true." Mommy Emma's voice drifted down the stairs. "Are you okay?" "Stay there," Sarah called back, panic rising. "Watch your show. I will be right back." She could not let Emma see this, could not risk her daughter getting any closer to whatever impossibility stood in their basement. But Emma's earlier words echoed in her mind. "I dreamed about a big white dog. He said he would protect us." The man outside Marcus said quietly, "Connor Hayes, he is my second in command. He is not here to hurt you. He is here to protect me because there are others who want me dead. The same ones who shot me with silver bullets and left me to die." Sarah's voice cracked. "I do not understand any of this. I found a wolf. I helped it. And now there are wolves surrounding my house and a naked man in my basement, and none of this makes sense. I know. And I am sorry you have been dragged into this." Marcus took a careful step forward, and Sarah raised the knife instinctively. He stopped immediately, hands raised in a placating gesture. "We exist, people who can shift between human and wolf form. We have existed for thousands of years hidden among your kind. We have our own societies, our own laws. And I am—" He hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "I am someone important to my people, which makes me a target." "Werewolves," Sarah breathed. "You are saying werewolves are real. We prefer shifters, but yes. The legends are based on truth, though most of what humans believe about us is wrong. We are not slaves to the moon. We do not lose control. Silver can hurt us, but it will not kill us unless the dose is large and we are left untreated. You removed the silver. You saved me." A crash from upstairs made them both freeze. Then Connor's voice, calm but urgent. "Ma'am, I am coming through the back door. Do not be alarmed. Your daughter is safe, but we need to talk. Now." "No." Sarah bolted up the stairs, knife still in hand, but Connor was already inside. He stood in her kitchen, hands raised in a placating gesture. Up close, Sarah recognized him as the amber-eyed man who had been watching the clinic. Auburn hair caught the overhead light, and his leather jacket creaked as he moved with fluid grace that was just slightly wrong. Not quite human. "Get out of my house," Sarah hissed, positioning herself between him and the living room, where Emma watched with wide, terrified eyes. "Get out right now, or I am calling the police. The police cannot help you." Connor's voice was steady, but his eyes flicked toward the basement door. "Your Majesty, are you well enough to come up here?" This conversation would be easier, face to face. "Your Majesty," Marcus appeared in the doorway, still shirtless, moving carefully as if his body had not quite finished healing. When he entered the kitchen, Connor immediately dropped into a half bow, the gesture so natural it was clearly habit. "Connor, you are scaring her," Marcus said quietly. "Back off. We have a perimeter of 40 wolves." Connor did not move. "Victoria's scouts were spotted 3 miles from here. We need to move you to secure territory. Now." Marcus's jaw tightened. "How many?" "They are spread thin along the tree line. Undercover, scent masked. Your neighbors will not see a thing unless we want them to." "Who is—" "Victoria," Sarah demanded. "Why are there 40 wolves around my house? Why is everyone acting like this is normal?" Marcus turned that intense gaze on her, and Sarah saw exhaustion in them. and pain, and something that looked like regret. Victoria Blackwood is an alpha who wants power. She orchestrated the ambush that nearly killed me. She sent her people to finish the job. And now that they know where I am, they will come. Which means you and your daughter are in danger. Because of you, the words came out flat. You brought this to my door. Yes, no excuses, no deflection. I did, and I am sorry, but I can protect you if you let me. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, blanket trailing behind her eyes, fixed on Marcus with an expression Sarah could not quite read. Not fear, curiosity mixed with something that looked like recognition. You were the wolf, Emma said, her 6-year-old voice cutting through the tension. You are really big. Are you nice or mean? Marcus's expression softened in a way Sarah had not expected. He lowered himself carefully to one knee, bringing himself to Emma's eye level. I am nice, he said gently, and I am grateful to your mother. She saved my life. Did bad people hurt you? Yes. But I am getting better. Emma, go back to the living room, Sarah said, her voice shaking. Now. But Mommy. Now her daughter fled, and Sarah felt like the worst mother in the world. But she needed Emma away from this, away from men who turned into wolves and talked about danger and death. You need to prove it, she said, looking at Connor. You need to prove what you are saying is real because my brain is trying to convince me I am having a breakdown. Connor glanced at Marcus, who nodded. Show her. But slowly. What happened next would haunt Sarah's dreams for weeks. Connor's body rippled bones sliding under skin in ways that should not be possible. His form blurred, compressed, reorganized. Within 30 seconds, a massive rust-colored wolf stood in her kitchen, amber eyes fixed on her with complete awareness. The knife clattered from Sarah's nerveless fingers. She backed against the counter, hand over her mouth, trying not to scream. Because screaming would terrify Emma, and she could not do that, had to stay calm, had to think. The wolf that had been Connor shifted back to human form just as quickly, flesh and bone rearranging until the auburn-haired man stood there again, fully clothed, as if his body remembered what he had been wearing. Pack-trained shifters wore bonded fabrics that moved with them, Connor would explain later. Clothes that shifted with the body, compressed and released. It was why Marcus had woken naked. He had been ambushed, stripped of his gear. How Sarah whispered. We do not know the science of it, Connor said. We just are. We have always been. And we have worked very hard to keep your kind from discovering us. Mommy, Emma's scream cut through everything else. Mommy, there is a doggy. Sarah ran to the living room. Emma was pressed against the far wall, pointing at the window where a massive white wolf had its paws up on the glass, peering inside with eyes that glowed in the darkness. Connor, get your people under control. Marcus snapped, moving faster than he should have been able to in his condition. He pulled the curtain closed, blocking the wolf from view. You are terrifying a child. I am sorry. Connor pulled out a phone, spoke quickly in a language Sarah did not recognize. The shadows outside shifted, moving away from the house. They were just concerned. They know you are vulnerable. I do not care. This woman saved me when she had every reason to leave me to die. You will treat her home with respect. Sarah scooped Emma up, feeling her daughter's small body trembling against her chest. This is insane. This is insane. You need to leave, all of you. Just get out and leave us alone. I wish I could, Marcus said, and the regret in his voice sounded genuine. But Victoria knows I am here now. She will send more people, and they will not be as restrained as Connor's team. If you want your daughter safe, you need to let us help. By staying here, by bringing more danger, by giving me time to heal completely, to contact my people to arrange secure transport. Then we will be crowned and you will never see us again. Marcus met her eyes, but until then, you need protection. My protection. I do not want your protection. I want you gone. Mommy, I am scared. Emma whispered against her neck. And there it was, the thing that mattered more than fear, more than confusion, more than the complete destruction of everything she thought she knew about the world. Emma's safety. Sarah looked at Marcus, at Connor, at the impossible situation that had walked into her life on 4 legs and silver bullets. If I let you stay, there are conditions. Non-negotiable. Name them. You stay in the guest room upstairs, not the basement. Connor and his people stay outside. Discreetly. My neighbors cannot see anything unusual or they will call the police. And Emma? Her voice cracked. Emma cannot know details. She is 6. I will not traumatize my daughter more than she already is. Marcus nodded slowly. Agreed. But you need to understand if Victoria's people come, it will not be quiet. There will be fighting, blood, things your daughter should not see. Then you had better hope they do not come. Sarah's arms tightened around Emma. 3 days. That is all you get. Then you disappear from our lives, and we go back to normal. 3 days, Marcus agreed. But something in his eyes told Sarah that normal was already gone, shattered, as completely as her understanding of reality had been. Connor stepped outside to organize the perimeter. Marcus stood in her kitchen, still shirtless, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. And Sarah held her daughter close, wondering how she was supposed to explain any of this to a 6-year-old who still believed in fairy tales. Though apparently some fairy tales were real after all. The next morning came too quickly. Sarah woke to her alarm after maybe 3 hours of fitful sleep, her body protesting every movement. She had given Marcus the guest room and clean clothes from David's closet. The sight of this impossible man wearing her dead husband's flannel shirt felt wrong in ways she could not articulate. She found him already awake in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a cup of coffee, silver eyes tracking her movements as she entered. I made a pot, he said quietly. Hope you do not mind. Sarah poured herself a cup without answering, her hand steady despite the surreal situation. A werewolf, a shifter, an alpha king. In her kitchen, drinking coffee like this was normal. Thank you for the clothes, Marcus continued. They are too small, Sarah finished. My husband was not as tall as you. I am sorry for your loss. Connor told me about the accident. 3 years ago. 4 years. Sarah's voice came out sharper than she intended. And it was not an accident. Marcus's expression darkened. I know. Garrett Hayes killed him. My beta's brother. A rogue shifter who wanted to expose us to the world. Sarah's coffee cup shook in her hands. Dr. Ward told me yesterday. 4 years I believed David died because of icy roads and bad timing. David died because he was a good man who did the right thing. Marcus's voice was low controlled. Garrett was planning to release evidence of shifters to major media outlets. Your husband discovered the plan and tried to stop him. Garrett murdered him and staged it to look like an accident, and you let it happen. I did not know until it was too late. Marcus met her eyes. When I found out, I hunted Garrett for 2 years. When I finally caught him, I executed him myself, but it could not bring your husband back. Could not undo what he had taken from you and Emma. Sarah wanted to be angry, wanted to blame this stranger for David's death, for Victoria's pursuit, for all of it. But the grief in Marcus's silver eyes looked too much like her own. Connor said you were David's friend, that he saved Connor's life in Afghanistan. Kandahar, 2009. Marcus took a slow sip of coffee. Connor's unit was ambushed. David pulled him out of a burning vehicle under heavy fire. Saved his life. Connor has carried that debt for 15 years. Is that why he is helping you to repay David? Connor is helping me because he is loyal, and because he believes in what I am trying to build. A world where shifters do not have to hide, where we do not have to kill good men like your husband to protect our secrets. Before Sarah could respond, Emma's voice called from upstairs. Mommy, is the wolf man still here? Sarah set down her coffee cup. Stay here, let me talk to her. But Emma was already padding into the kitchen in her pajamas, eyes bright with curiosity rather than fear. She walked right up to Marcus, tilting her head to study him. You look different when you are a person, she observed. Your eyes are the same, though. Marcus smiled, and it transformed his harsh features into something almost gentle. Good morning, Emma. Did you sleep okay? I dreamed about you again. You were fighting bad wolves. There was lots of blood. Emma's matter-of-fact tone made Sarah's stomach clench. But you won. You always win. Marcus glanced at Sarah, something unreadable in his expression. I try my best. Can you show me your wolf? Emma asked. I want to pet him. Is he soft? Emma, no. Sarah started, but Marcus held up a hand. Not today, he said to Emma. My wolf is still healing from his injuries. But maybe soon if your mother says it is okay. Emma seemed to accept this. She climbed into her chair and looked at Sarah expectantly. Can we have pancakes now? The morning routine helped ground Sarah in reality. Making breakfast, getting Emma dressed, packing her lunch. Marcus stayed out of the way, which she appreciated. But she could feel his presence in the house like a physical weight. watchful, protective, dangerous. When Sarah dropped Emma at school, she lingered in the parking lot watching her daughter skip toward the building. So innocent, so unaware of how completely their world had changed in 24 hours. Her phone buzzed, a text from Ruth. "Everything okay, dear? Saw some commotion at your place last night. Want me to come by?" Sarah typed back quickly. "All fine. Just some stray dogs." Animal control came. All handled. The lie came easily. Too easily. How many more would she have to tell? At the clinic, Dr. Ward pulled her aside immediately. "My office, now." Sarah followed him in and he closed the door behind them. She expected questions about Marcus, about the wolves, about everything Ward had told her yesterday. Instead, he handed her an old photograph. It showed a young Preston Ward in military fatigues, maybe 20 years old, standing with his arm around another soldier. Behind them, barely visible in the shadows of the Korean forest, was a massive white wolf. "Inchin 1951, Ward said quietly. "The night they saved us, I managed to get one photo before they disappeared. Been carrying it for 70 years. Never showed anyone. People would think I was crazy." Sarah stared at the image. The wolf's eyes caught the camera flash reflecting silver. "They are real," Ward continued. "And if one of them is in your house, it means something big is happening. Something dangerous. His name is Marcus Stone." Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. "He is an alpha king. And there is a woman named Victoria who wants him dead." Ward nodded slowly. "What do you need from me? I do not know." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I do not know what I am doing. I have Emma to think about. My job. My life. And now there is a man who turns into a wolf in my guest room and an army of his people surrounding my house, and I do not know what to do." "You do what you have always done." Ward's hand was warm on her shoulder. "You help those who need it. You protect your daughter, and you trust your instincts. They kept you alive when David died. They will keep you alive now." The shift dragged. Sarah kept checking her phone, expecting texts from Victoria, or warnings from Connor, or news that her house had been attacked. But nothing came. Just the usual routine of treating animals, updating files, pretending the world had not tilted off its axis. When she finally left at 5, the sun was already setting behind the mountains. The drive home felt too long, every shadow potentially hiding threats. Marcus was standing at the kitchen window when she walked in, his posture tense. Connor sat at the table with the laptop typing rapidly. "We have a problem," Connor said without preamble. Sarah set down her purse. "What kind of problem?" Connor turned the laptop toward her. The screen showed a series of messages, some in English, some in that strange language shifters used. Connor had translated the important parts. "Victoria's planning something bigger than we thought," Marcus said, his voice tight. "Show her the rest." Connor clicked through files. Video footage of shifters transforming. Detailed maps of shifter territories across the United States. Names and addresses of alpha leaders. Contact information for journalists at CNN, Fox News, NBC. "She is going to expose us," Connor said flatly. "Release everything simultaneously to major media outlets. Frame shifters as a hidden threat that has been living among humans for centuries. Push for military intervention." Sarah felt cold. That would start a war. Exactly what she wants. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Chaos. Panic. She will position herself as the only one strong enough to protect both shifters and humans from each other. She will take power by claiming, "I failed to keep our people hidden." But you did not fail. She is the one exposing you. Truth does not matter in war. Only who tells the most convincing story. Marcus's jaw tightened. "I need to get back to my territory. Gather allies. Stop this before she can act. The moment you leave this property, her people will know." Connor warned, "They are watching, waiting, then I fight my way through. You are still healing." And she has numbers. Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her hands shook as she opened the message. "Sweet Sarah, the king's little savior. I have a proposition for you. Come to me willingly and I will leave Marcus alone. I will even spare your precious daughter. All you have to do is walk away. He gets to save the world. You get to save him. Fair trade, do not you think you have 1 hour to decide. Victoria." The phone clattered from Sarah's nerveless fingers. Marcus was at her side instantly, reading the message over her shoulder. His face went white, then flushed with rage. "No, absolutely not. She is offering to leave you alone," Sarah heard herself say. to leave Emma alone. If I just, if you walk into her hands, she will kill you. Marcus's voice was shaking. Or worse, she will use you against me, torture you to break me, parade you in front of cameras to show how weak I am. I will not allow it. It is not your choice. The words came out calmer than she felt. This is my life, my daughter. And you are talking about preventing a war that could kill millions. If my sacrifice can stop that, your sacrifice. Marcus's laugh was bitter. You think I could live with that, knowing you died because of me, and knowing I let my mate walk to her death because I was too weak to protect her? The word hung in the air between them. Mate, what did you just say? Marcus closed his eyes briefly as if realizing what he had revealed. There is something you need to know. Among my kind, there is something called a mate bond. Sarah stepped back. A what? When two souls are meant to be together, they recognize each other. Marcus's voice was low, careful. It is in the scent, in the pull, in every instinct, screaming that this person is yours and you are theirs. I felt it the moment I woke up in your basement and smelled your scent. Vanilla and autumn rain. It called to something in me that had been dead for 10 years. That sounds like obsession, not love. It can become love, or it can remain just recognition. The bond does not force emotion, Sarah. It just opens the door to possibility. Marcus took a careful step toward her. Human shifter bonds are the rarest and strongest because they require the shifter to control their nature. And because humans who can accept us are truly remarkable. Sarah's back hit the counter. I lost David 4 years ago. I loved him with everything I had. How can I trust feelings that came this fast? How do I know it is real and not just some biological trick? You do not. Marcus's honesty was brutal. I cannot prove it to you. I can only tell you what I feel. And I feel like I have been searching for you my entire life without knowing it. Like every decision I made, every path I took was leading me to that road where you found me bleeding out. That is not fair, her voice cracked. You cannot just say things like that to a widow who has been alone for 4 years, who has been so focused on keeping her daughter safe that she forgot how to feel anything for herself. I know. He was close enough now that she could feel his warmth. And I know this is insane. I know you have every reason to send me away. But Sarah, his hand came up, fingers brushing her cheek with devastating gentleness. I also know that you feel it too. This pull between us. Tell me I am wrong. She could not, because he was not wrong. From the moment she had looked into those silver eyes on the rain-soaked road, something in her had responded. Something she thought died with David. This is crazy, she whispered. I know. I barely know you. I know. And I have a daughter to think about. I cannot just... The words died as his thumb traced her lower lip. The touch was electric, sending heat spiraling through her body. His eyes had darkened pupils expanding, and she could hear his breathing change. Marcus. His name was half protest, half plea. I want to kiss you, he said roughly. I have wanted to since you stood in your kitchen and demanded answers instead of running away screaming. But I will not. Not unless you want me to. Not unless you are ready. She should say no. Should step back, reclaim her space. Remember all the reasons this was a terrible idea. But her body had different plans. She swayed forward, drawn by gravity or destiny or simple human need for connection. His lips were a breath from hers when Connor's voice cut through the moment. Your Majesty, we have a problem. Marcus's jaw clenched, but he stepped back, putting respectable distance between them. What is it? Connor stood in the doorway, his amber eyes grave. I intercepted more communications from Victoria's people. It is worse than we thought. They followed him to the table where Connor's laptop displayed more decoded messages. Sarah read over their shoulders, her stomach sinking with each line. Victoria had not just planned to expose shifters. She had gathered evidence of shifter attacks on humans over the past century. Murders, disappearances, unsolved cases. She planned to paint them not just as hidden neighbors, but as active predators who had been hunting humans for generations. She is not just exposing us, Marcus said, his voice deadly quiet. She is declaring war on humanity in our name, making it impossible for coexistence, forcing the government to treat us as enemy combatants. How many people will die, Sarah asked. Thousands, Connor said. Maybe millions if it escalates. Humans will panic. Military will mobilize. Shifters will fight back. It will be slaughter on both sides. Marcus turned to Sarah. This is why I have to go. Have to stop her before she can release this. But I cannot leave you unprotected. Victoria knows where you are. She will send people. Then take us with you, Sarah said. Both men stared at her. You said you need to get to your territory, to gather allies. So take us with you, Emma and me. We will be safer there than here, right? Surrounded by your people instead of alone, where Victoria can pick us off. Marcus shook his head. The journey is dangerous. In my territory, it is not set up for humans. The protocols, the social structures. Then you better hope I am a quick learner. Sarah met his eyes. Because I am not staying here like bait in a trap. And I am not sending Emma to Ruth's where Victoria can still find her. If we are in danger because of you, then you are getting us to the safest place possible, which is with you. Connor actually smiled. She has a point, Your Majesty. Marcus studied Sarah for a long moment, something like pride flickering in his silver eyes. You are certain once we leave there is no going back. You will see things, learn things about my world that you cannot unknow. I'm already there. Sarah's voice was steady. I watched a man turn into a wolf in my kitchen. I have 40 white wolves guarding my house. My dead husband was killed by one of your kind. There is no unknowing any of this. So yes, I am certain. Then we leave tonight. Marcus turned to Connor. Organized transport. 3 vehicles, 10 wolves per vehicle. We move fast and we move quiet. No stops unless absolutely necessary. What about Dr. Ward? Sarah asked. And Ruth, I cannot just disappear without telling them something. Tell them the truth, Marcus said. Ward already knows about us. And Ruth, she seems like someone who can handle difficult information. Sarah thought about Ruth, who had lost her husband, who had raised 3 children alone, who had never once judged Sarah for her grief. If anyone could understand, it would be Ruth. Connor left to make arrangements. Sarah went upstairs to pack bags for herself and Emma, moving on autopilot. Closed toiletries, Emma's stuffed rabbit, her own wedding ring that she still wore on a chain around her neck. The physical reminders of a life that was ending. When she came back down, Marcus was waiting by the door. He had put on one of David's heavy jackets, and it fit better than the shirt had. In the dim light, he looked like what he was. A warrior, a king, something ancient and powerful, barely contained in human form. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For trusting me. For choosing to protect Emma by coming with me instead of sending us away. That took courage. It took desperation. Sarah corrected, but she found herself moving closer to him anyway. Marcus, what you said earlier. About the mate bond. Is it always this fast? Sometimes faster. Sometimes it takes years to develop. Marcus's hand found her fingers intertwining. But when it is right, you know. Your wolf knows. Your soul knows. I am not a wolf, no. His thumb traced circles on her palm. But you are mine anyway, and I am yours, whether either of us wanted it or not. The words should have frightened her, should have sent her running. Instead, they settled into her chest like something that had been missing, finally clicking into place. The convoy left at midnight. 3 black SUVs with tinted windows, wolves running alongside in the forest where no human eyes could see them. Emma slept in Sarah's lap, exhausted from the day's confusion. Ruth had taken the news better than expected, immediately understanding the danger and promising to watch the house while they were gone. Ward had been even more pragmatic. Keep your head down and your daughter close. And Sarah trusts that instinct that made you save him. It will see you through. Sarah watched Montana wilderness roll past the window. Marcus driving with casual competence despite his recent injuries. She could see them now, the scars. Not just the fresh ones from the attack, but older marks. A life lived in violence and protection of his people. I need to tell you something, Marcus said quietly, his voice barely audible over the engine. About my past. About why the mate bond means so much to me. Sarah waited, sensing this was important. That whatever he was about to share would change things between them. I was married once. Her name was Elena. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. We were young, 22, 23. The mate bond was strong, fast, overwhelming. We were happy. Sarah's chest tightened. What happened? She got pregnant. It should have been joy, but shifter pregnancies are dangerous, especially first births. Elena, she died in labor. And our son, He lived for 3 hours. I held him while he took his last breath. Oh, Marcus. After that, I felt nothing for 10 years. His voice was flat, emotionless, in the way of someone who had locked their grief so deep it could not escape. No joy, no pain, no connection to anyone. I ruled my territory, made my reforms, fought my battles. But I was hollow inside, a shell doing what needed to be done. Until that night on the road, until I smelled vanilla and autumn rain, and something in me that had been dead started breathing again. Marcus glanced at her silver eyes reflecting dashboard light. You did not just save my life, Sarah. You brought me back from a place I thought I would live in forever. And for that, I will protect you and Emma with everything I am. Even if the mate bond never goes further than recognition. Even if you choose to walk away when this is over. You are mine to protect. Always. Sarah's hand found his on the gear shift. I am sorry for your loss. For Elena and your son. No one should have to carry that kind of grief. It shaped me, made me who I am, made me value peace over pride, protection over power. Marcus turned his hand over palm against hers, and maybe it prepared me to understand your grief too, to know what it means to lose someone and keep living anyway. They drove in silence for a while, hands still touching Emma sleeping peacefully between them. Sarah thought about David, about the life they had planned that never happened, about 4 years of widowhood and loneliness and focusing everything on Emma because it was easier than facing her own emptiness. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe the mate bond was not about replacing what she had lost. Maybe it was about finding something new, something neither of them expected but both needed. The territory appeared as dawn broke over the mountains. Hidden valley nestled deep in the Rockies, accessible only by winding roads that seemed designed to discourage visitors. The main house was massive, built from stone and timber that blended into the landscape. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked valleys stretching for miles. Dozens of smaller houses dotted the forest smoke, rising from chimneys in the early morning light. Emma woke as they pulled up to the main house, her eyes going wide. Mommy, it looks like a fairy tale. Marcus smiled. Welcome home, he said. And Sarah realized with a start that some part of her wanted this to be home. Wanted this impossible place with this impossible man to be where she and Emma belonged. The feeling should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like the first deep breath she had taken in 4 years. The pack house was even more impressive inside than out. High ceilings with exposed beams, massive stone fireplace that could fit 3 grown men standing upright, furniture that managed to be both rustic and elegant. But what struck Sarah most was the sense of community. Shifters moved through the space with easy familiarity, greeting Marcus with respect, but not fear. This was not just a fortress, it was a home. Emma clung to Sarah's hand, eyes wide as she took in everything. A young woman with kind eyes and honey blonde hair approached them, bowing slightly to Marcus before turning to Sarah. My name is Lily. I help manage the household. You must be exhausted from the journey. Let me show you to your rooms. Rooms, plural. Sarah felt relief and something else she did not want to examine too closely. Of course, Marcus would give her separate space. This was not a romantic getaway. This was protective custody. The guest suite was spacious with a large bedroom for Sarah and a connecting room for Emma, decorated in soft purples and blues. Someone had even put stuffed animals on Emma's bed, and her daughter squealed with delight. Can I stay here forever, Mommy? Sarah's throat tightened. We will see, baby. After Emma was settled with Lily showing her the playroom where other pack children spent their days, Sarah found herself alone in her room. She should sleep, should rest after the overnight drive. But her mind was racing, processing everything that had happened in less than 48 hours. A knock on her door made her jump. Marcus stood in the hallway looking uncertain in a way she had not seen before. The council wants to meet you, he said. They need to understand who you are and why you are here. Your council knows I am human. They know you are my mate. Marcus's voice was careful. That makes you important regardless of species. But Sarah, I need to warn you. Some of them will not be happy about this. Human shifter bonds are rare and complicated. They will have concerns. What kind of concerns? Security, loyalty, whether you can be trusted with our secrets. Marcus stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. And whether I am compromised by having a mate who is human and vulnerable. Are you compromised? Yes. His honesty was startling. Completely. Because now I have something to lose again. Something Victoria knows she can use against me. Then maybe the council is right to be concerned. Maybe. But they do not get to decide who I claim as mate. That is between you and me and no one else. Marcus moved closer and Sarah found herself unable to look away from those silver eyes. I will not let them intimidate you. Will not let them make you feel less than what you are. And what am I mine? The word was barely above a whisper, but it resonated through Sarah's entire body. My mate, my salvation, the woman who saved me twice now. Once from silver bullets and once from the hollow existence I thought was all I had left. Before Sarah could respond, before she could process the weight of what he had just said, another knock interrupted them. Connor's voice came through the door, urgent. Your Majesty, the council is assembled. They are getting impatient. The council chamber was intimidating by design. Circular room with a domed ceiling, 5 elevated seats arranged in a semicircle facing a lower platform where Marcus stood with Sarah at his side. The 5 alphas who made up the council were all older, all male, all radiating power that made Sarah's instincts scream to run. The eldest, a man with silver hair and cold blue eyes, spoke first. So this is the human, the one you claim as mate. Her name is Sarah Mitchell, Marcus said, his voice carrying absolute authority. And yes, she is my mate, recognized and claimed under shifter law. A human mate is a liability, another council member said. This one had scars across his face and the build of someone who had spent decades fighting. Victoria will use her against you. Let her try, Marcus replied coldly. The silver-haired elder Magnus leaned forward. You are emotionally compromised, Marcus. Your judgment is clouded. The logical choice is clear. Sarah felt ice in her veins. What logical choice? Magnus's eyes fixed on her, devoid of warmth. You should be eliminated. Painlessly, of course. We are not monsters. But your existence creates a weakness in our king that we cannot afford during this crisis. The room went silent. Sarah heard the words but could not process them. They were discussing her death like it was a chess move, a strategy to consider. Marcus's voice when he spoke was laced with lethal promise. Anyone who touches her will die by my hand. She is mine, not negotiable, not up for debate. Try to harm her and you will discover exactly what kind of monster I can be. The tension in the room was suffocating. Sarah realized that Marcus was on the verge of violence, that his control was hanging by a thread. She also realized that she needed to hear this, needed to understand the danger her presence created. She slipped out of the chamber quietly, knowing Marcus was too focused on the council to notice immediately. In the hallway, she leaned against the cold stone wall, trying to breathe, trying to think. Victoria had sent another message. Sarah had seen it on Connor's laptop before they left. The ultimatum was clear. Sarah for a 72-hour delay on the exposure. Time for Marcus to gather his forces and stop Victoria in open combat instead of being caught off guard. One human life for thousands of shifter and human lives. The math was simple. Sarah found Connor in the security room monitoring multiple screens showing the territory perimeter. He looked up as she entered, his amber eyes immediately wary. I need you to help me, Sarah said. Connor stood. Whatever you are thinking, the answer is no. You do not even know what I am going to ask. You are going to ask me to help you turn yourself over to Victoria. Connor crossed his arms, and I am telling you no. His Majesty would tear me apart. Literally. Connor, I heard what the council said. I am a liability, a weakness, and Victoria is offering a trade that could save thousands of lives. She is offering a trap. Connor's voice was firm. Victoria will torture you for information, use you to break His Majesty psychologically, then kill you on camera to show the world how weak shifters are when they care about humans. It is not a trade. It is an execution with extra steps. Sarah moved to the monitors, looking at the vast territory stretching out below. Somewhere out there, Victoria was planning to expose shifters to the world, planning to start a war that would kill innocents on both sides. And Sarah had the power to delay that, to give Marcus the time he needed. What if it works? Sarah asked quietly. What if Victoria keeps her word? She will not. But what if she does? Connor sighed heavily. Even if she does, even if she delays the exposure, she will not release you. You are too valuable as leverage. She will keep you alive just long enough to use you against His Majesty in the final confrontation. Then Marcus can rescue me after he defeats her. Sarah turned to face Connor. I am not asking you to agree with this. I am asking you to understand why I have to do it. Because you are a mother who will do anything to protect her daughter. Connor's expression softened. I understand that. But you need to understand something too. His Majesty has lost everyone he ever loved. His wife, his child, his father. If he loses you, there will be nothing left of the man who has been fighting for peace. Victoria knows this. It is why she wants you. The door burst open and Marcus entered, fury radiating from every line of his body. Do not, he said, voice deadly quiet. Do not even think about it. You were listening. Connor sent me an alert the moment you entered this room. Marcus crossed to her in 3 strides. I know what you are planning, Sarah. And I am telling you now, it will not happen. It is not your decision, Sarah said, lifting her chin. This is my life, my choice. Your choice affects more than just you. Marcus's hands gripped her shoulders, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough that she could not pull away. Emma needs her mother. My people need their king, focused, not destroyed by grief. And his voice broke. Sarah saw the raw vulnerability in his eyes and realized this was not just about strategy or politics. This was about a man who had already buried too many people he loved. I cannot lose you, Marcus whispered. Not when I just found you. Not like this. Sarah's hands came up to rest against his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath her palms. Then you better make sure Victoria does not win, because I am going to give you the time you need to stop her. I am going to walk into that warehouse, and I am going to trust that you will come for me. You are insane. Probably. Sarah managed a smile. But I learned from the best. You walked into Victoria's ambush knowing it was a trap, knowing you might die. You did it to protect your people. This is the same thing. It is not the same. You are not a warrior. You are what a liability, a weakness. Sarah pulled back, anger flaring. Maybe I am, but I am also the only leverage Victoria wants, the only thing she will trade time for. And we need that time, Marcus. You know we do. He stared at her for a long moment, conflict warring across his features. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled her against him, burying his face in her hair, breathing deeply. Vanilla and autumn rain, he murmured. I will find you. I swear on everything I am, I will come for you. And when I do, we are going to have a very long conversation about your tendency towards self-sacrifice. I look forward to it. Sarah let herself lean into him just for a moment, let herself feel safe in his arms before she walked into danger. Connor cleared his throat. If we are doing this, we need a plan. Victoria specified Morrison Warehouse on Route 40, old industrial building, lots of places to hide explosives or ambush teams. I will scout it first, Marcus said, still holding Sarah. Map every entrance, every sight line. Place our people in positions around the perimeter. The moment she harms you, we breach. She might have conditions. No shifters within a certain radius. Sarah forced herself to step back to think tactically. If she detects your people, she might trigger the exposure immediately. Then we go in dark. No scent markers, no obvious positioning. Marcus turned to Connor. Contact the mountain pack in Silver Creek. I want every ally we have ready to move. This is not just a rescue. This is the beginning of the end with Victoria. The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. Sarah wrote a letter to Emma, sealed it in an envelope, with instructions for Ruth to read it only if necessary. She called Dr. Ward, told him what was happening, ignored his protests. She packed a small bag with basic necessities, though she knew Victoria would probably take it from her arm. And she tried very hard not to think about the fact that she might not come back. Emma found her as she was preparing to leave. Mommy, where are you going? Sarah knelt down, pulling her daughter into a tight embrace. Mommy has to help some people, baby. Uncle Marcus is going to take care of you while I am gone. Are you going to fight the bad wolves? Emma's eyes were too knowing for a 6-year-old. Uncle Marcus is going to do the fighting. I am just going to talk to someone. Sarah brushed curls back from her daughter's forehead. But I need you to be brave, okay? Stay with Ruth and Lily and do what they tell you. Emma's lip trembled. What if you do not come back? I will always come back to you. Sarah forced confidence into her voice. Always, that is a promise. But it was a promise she was not sure she could keep. The drive to Morrison Warehouse felt too short. Sarah sat in the passenger seat while Marcus drove his hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Connor followed in a second vehicle with a small team. They would drop Sarah off and then disappear into the surrounding area, invisible but ready. When the warehouse came into view, Sarah's stomach clenched. It looked exactly like what it was. A trap. Old industrial building with rusted metal siding, broken windows, dozens of places to hide. Black wolves were visible in a perimeter around the structure, not even trying to hide their presence. Marcus stopped the car 100 yards out. "This is your last chance to change your mind." "I know, Sarah." He turned to her, silver eyes burning with intensity. "When I come for you, and I will come for you, I need you to be ready. Do not fight. Do not try to be a hero. Just survive until I get there. Can you do that? I can do that." He kissed her, then hard and desperate, and full of everything he had not said. Sarah kissed him back, pouring her own fear and hope, and strange new feelings into it. The mate bond flared between them, golden and warm, a connection she could feel even as she pulled away. "Go save the world," she whispered. "I will be waiting." Sarah walked toward the warehouse alone, hands visible, bag over her shoulder. The black wolves watched her approach but did not move. The main door opened before she reached it, and Victoria Blackwood stepped out. She was stunning in the way of predators. Platinum blonde hair, ice blue eyes, features sharp and perfect. She wore designer clothes that probably cost more than Sarah's car, and she smiled like someone who had already won. Sarah Mitchell. Victoria's voice was smooth cultured, so brave, so foolish. "Welcome to the last place you will ever see." The inside of the warehouse was worse than Sarah expected. Concrete floors, exposed rafters, the smell of rust and decay. But what made her blood run cold were the explosives. Charges placed on support columns wired to what looked like a central detonator, enough to bring the entire building down. Victoria noticed her looking. "Insurance," she explained pleasantly. "In case your king gets ideas about a dramatic rescue. One button and we all die. Me, you, and whatever foolish wolves he sends in first." Sarah was zip-tied to a metal chair in the center of the warehouse, wrists behind her back, ankles bound to the chair legs. Victoria circled her, slowly examining her like a scientist might examine a specimen. "I have to admit, I am curious," Victoria said. "What does Marcus see in you? You are pretty enough, I suppose, but nothing special. Human, fragile, completely ordinary." "Maybe that is the point," Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady. "Maybe he wanted ordinary after a lifetime of extraordinary violence." Victoria laughed. "Oh, you have spirit. Good. That will make breaking you more entertaining." The first day in the warehouse was psychological torture. Victoria did not physically harm Sarah, but she talked constantly. About Marcus's dead wife and child. About how Sarah could never replace them. About how Marcus would eventually realize his mistake and let Sarah die rather than risk his people. By the second day, Sarah's wrists were raw from the zip ties, her throat dry from limited water. Victoria had not fed her, had not allowed bathroom breaks except under humiliating supervision. But Sarah held on to one thought. Marcus was coming. She just had to survive until he did. On the third day, Victoria's demeanor changed. She was agitated, checking her phone constantly, snapping at her guards. Something had gone wrong with her plan. "Your king is gathering allies faster than I anticipated," Victoria said, her pleasant mask slipping. "The mountain pack has declared for him. Silver Creek, too. Even the coastal alphas are sending support. He has more loyalty than I gave him credit for." "Maybe because he earned it," Sarah managed through cracked lips. Victoria's hand lashed out, striking Sarah across the face hard enough to split her lip. Blood filled her mouth, but she refused to cry out. "That loyalty will not save him." Victoria pulled out a knife, silver blade gleaming. "When he comes, and he will come, this entire building becomes his tomb, along with you and anyone foolish enough to follow him in." She pressed the blade against Sarah's throat, just hard enough to draw blood. "Tell me, does he love you?" As he said the words, Sarah thought about the kiss before she left, about the way Marcus had held her like she was precious, about the mate bond that connected them, even now a golden thread she could feel pulling toward him. "Yes," she whispered, "he loves me, and I love him." Victoria's eyes flashed with something that looked like pain before hardening again. "Then his grief will be exquisite. when I kill you in front of him." The explosion that rocked the warehouse came without warning. The north wall blew inward in a controlled breach, concrete and metal flying. White wolves poured through the opening, dozens of them, moving with military precision. Victoria screamed in fury, pressing the detonator. Nothing happened. She pressed it again and again. Looking for this, Connor's voice came from behind her. He stood in human form, holding a small electronic device. "Your detonator. We disabled it 3 hours ago. Did you really think we would just let you rig this place to blow?" "Impossible," Victoria hissed. "My people guarded the explosives. Your people were outmatched." Connor smiled coldly. "We had help from someone who has been waiting 70 years to see shifters and humans work together. Turns out military experience is useful regardless of species." Dr. Ward stepped through the breach, looking far too pleased with himself for a 72-year-old man. "Learned about explosives in Korea," he said cheerfully. "Some skills you never forget." The warehouse became a battlefield. Victoria's black wolves clashed with Marcus's white forces. But this time, Marcus's people had the advantage. They had planned coordinated, used human ingenuity combined with shifter strength. And then Marcus entered. He was in his hybrid form, the shape Sarah had only glimpsed once before. 7 feet tall, more wolf than man, but retaining human intelligence and posture. Fur covered his body, claws extended from his hands, face elongated but still recognizably his. His eyes blazed silver white with power. He cut through Victoria's guards like they were paper. Nothing could stand against him. He was rage and love, and desperation made manifest, and Sarah had never seen anything more terrifying or beautiful in her life. Victoria shifted to her wolf form, massive and black, with ice blue eyes. She launched herself at Marcus, and they collided with bone-crushing force. The fight was brutal, primal, 2 alphas locked in combat that could only end one way. Sarah worked frantically at her zip ties. The knife Victoria had dropped lay 3 feet away. If she could just reach it. She rocked the chair, ignoring the pain in her wrists, trying to tip herself close enough to grab the blade. The chair fell sideways with a crash. Sarah's head cracked against concrete, and stars exploded across her vision. But her fingers brushed the knife handle. She gripped it awkwardly, began sawing at the zip ties. Marcus had Victoria pinned, claws at her throat. He could kill her. Sarah saw it in his eyes, the desire to end this threat permanently. But he hesitated, looking for Sarah, needing to know she was safe before he delivered the final blow. That moment of hesitation almost cost him everything. Victoria twisted jaws, snapping at Marcus's throat. He jerked back, but not fast enough. Her teeth grazed his neck, drawing blood. They rolled across the concrete, a tangle of fur and fury. Sarah's zip ties snapped. She pulled her hands free, blood from her raw wrists making her fingers slippery. The chair ties took longer, precious seconds, while Marcus and Victoria fought. Connor appeared at her side, shifting to human form to help her. "Got you," he said, breaking the restraints with shifter strength. "We need to get you out of here." "Not without Marcus. He can handle himself." "Look," Sarah pointed to where Victoria had gained the upper hand, using her smaller size and speed to her advantage. She had Marcus's throat in her jaws, jaw pressure increasing. Marcus was weakening, blood loss taking its toll. Sarah looked around desperately, saw the silver knife still on the ground. Silver hurt shifters. Victoria was a shifter. Before Connor could stop her, Sarah grabbed the knife and ran. She was not a warrior, was not trained in combat, but she was a mother who had learned to fight for what mattered. And Marcus mattered. Sarah drove the silver blade into Victoria's shoulder with all her strength. Victoria howled, releasing Marcus, turning on Sarah with murder in her eyes. But the silver was already working, spreading burning pain through her system. Marcus recovered in an instant. This time when he attacked, there was no hesitation. His claws found Victoria's throat and ended it. Quick, clean, final. The warehouse went silent. Victoria's remaining wolves fled or surrendered. Marcus shifted back to human form, naked and covered in blood, and gathered Sarah into his arms. "You stubborn, brave, impossible woman," he breathed against her hair. "You could have been killed. So could you." Sarah was shaking, adrenaline crash hitting hard. "I was not going to let her win." Connor draped a blanket over Marcus's shoulders. "Your Majesty, we need to move." Victoria may have had a dead man's switch for the exposure information. She did not. Dr. Ward approached, holding a laptop. "Found her computer. Everything is here and deleted. No backups, no cloud storage. She kept it all local because she trusted no one. That paranoia just saved us all. Marcus helped Sarah to her feet, supporting her when her legs threatened to give out. It is over. His voice was full of wonder. Actually over. They emerged from the warehouse into dawn light. The battle had lasted all night. Sarah realized she had lost track of time, lost in fear and pain and determination to survive. Emma would be waking soon, asking for her mother. I need to get home, Sarah said. I need to see Emma. We will get you home. Marcus kept his arm around her waist, steadying her. But first we need medical attention. For both of us, Doctor. Ward examined them in one of the vehicles, shaking his head at their injuries. You two are going to give me gray hair. Oh, wait, already have it. He wrapped Sarah's wrists in clean bandages, checked Marcus's throat wound, which was already healing. Perks of being a shifter, Ward said. Wish humans healed that fast. The drive back to territory felt longer than the drive out. Sarah dozed against Marcus's shoulder, exhaustion finally overwhelming her. When she woke, they were pulling up to the pack house, and Emma was running down the steps, Ruth right behind her. Mommy? Emma crashed into Sarah, nearly knocking her over. You came back. You promised, and you came back. Sarah held her daughter tight, breathing in the scent of children's shampoo and innocence. Always, baby. I will always come back to you. That night, after Emma was asleep and the adrenaline had faded, Sarah found Marcus standing on the balcony overlooking the territory. He had showered, changed into clean clothes, but the exhaustion showed in the set of his shoulders. She came to stand beside him, their arms touching. Thank you for coming for me. I told you I would. Marcus turned to face her fully. Sarah, what you did today, using that silver knife on Victoria, that was stupid, reckless, brave. He cupped her face in his hands, and it saved my life, again. You seem to make a habit of that. Someone has to keep you alive. Sarah leaned into his touch. What happens now? Now we heal. Marcus's thumb traced her cheekbone. We deal with Victoria's remaining followers, secure the territory's rebuild, the boring work of governance, and us. Sarah held her breath. What happens with us? That depends. Marcus's eyes searched hers. The mate bond is complete from my side. Has been since the moment I woke in your basement. But you need to choose, Sarah. Choose if this is what you want. Me, this life, all of it. Sarah thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the danger, the impossibility of it all. She thought about David, about the love they had shared and lost. And she realized that loving Marcus did not diminish what she had felt for David. It was different, new, its own kind of beautiful. I choose you, she said. I choose this, all of it. The crazy shifter politics, the dangerous battles, the mate bond that defies science. I choose us. Marcus kissed her, then soft and sweet and full of promise. The mate bond flared between them, golden and warm and right. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. There is a ceremony, he said, to formally recognize the mate bond. It is traditional, symbolic. But it would make you queen in the eyes of my people. Give you protection, status rights within shifter law. Queen Sarah. Sarah tested the words. That sounds terrifying. You would be amazing at it. Marcus smiled. But no pressure. We can wait until you are ready. I am ready now. Sarah surprised herself with the certainty in her voice. I almost died today. Life is too short to wait for the perfect moment. The ceremony happened 3 days later under a full moon. The entire pack gathered, over 200 shifters in human form, creating a circle around Sarah and Marcus. Emma stood beside Sarah in a purple dress, taking her role as flower girl, with utmost seriousness. Ruth and Dr. Ward stood as witnesses representing the human world that Sarah came from. The ritual was conducted in the shifter language, ancient words that carried weight beyond their meaning. Marcus spoke vows about protection, loyalty, and love. Sarah responded in English, her voice steady, as she promised to stand beside him, to honor the bond between them, to build a life that bridged their two worlds. When Marcus marked her, a gentle bite on her shoulder that left a permanent scar, the mate bond exploded between them. Golden light visible to every shifter present, the physical manifestation of souls recognizing each other. The pack howled, a sound that echoed through the mountains. Emma clapped and threw flower petals that got caught in everyone's hair. Ruth dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Ward grinned like he had won a bet. You are stuck with me now, Marcus murmured against Sarah's lips. Good, Sarah whispered back. I am counting on it. 6 months later, Sarah stood in her new clinic on the edge of packed territory. It was smaller than Dr. Ward's practice, but specially designed to treat shifters. Injuries from training, complications from silver exposure ailments that human vets would not understand. Ward had come to work with her teaching young shifter medics the basics of field medicine. He said it was to give back to the creatures who saved him in Korea. But Sarah suspected he just enjoyed having purpose again. Emma was thriving. She attended the PAC school with other shifter children, learning both human and shifter customs. She called Marcus Daddy Marcus, now the title emerging naturally one morning at breakfast. Sarah had worried about Emma forgetting David, but her daughter seemed to understand that she could have two fathers, one who watched from heaven and one who was here now. Marcus had changed too, still an alpha, still commanding respect and loyalty. But there was lightness in him now that had not been there before. He laughed more, smiled more, let Sarah see the man beneath the king. They were in the kitchen when Sarah told him. Emma was at school, the house-quiet sunlight streaming through the windows. I have news, she said, turning from the coffee maker. Marcus looked up from his laptop, concern flickering across his features. What kind of news? Sarah pulled the pregnancy test from her pocket, set it on the counter between them. The kind that changes everything. Again. Marcus stared at the test for a long moment. Then his eyes met hers, silver and bright with emotion. A baby. A baby. Sarah's hand went to her still flat stomach. I know it is fast, and we have only been mated for 6 months, and there is so much that could go wrong. He crossed to her in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. Nothing is going to go wrong. His voice was fierce. I lost Elena and our son, but this time will be different. I am different. We are going to have this baby, and they are going to be perfect and loved and safe. You cannot promise that. Watch me. Marcus placed his hand over hers on her stomach. I am the Alpha King. I can promise anything I want. Sarah laughed, the sound turning into happy tears. We are going to have a baby. We are going to have a family. Marcus kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. You, me, Emma, and this little one. Our family. That evening they told Emma over dinner. Her daughter's reaction was predictably enthusiastic. She immediately began planning what to name the baby, what toys they would play with, whether it would be a brother or sister. Can the baby shift? Emma asked Marcus. Will they be a wolf like you? Maybe. Marcus's hand found Sarah's under the table. Or maybe they will be human like your mother. Either way, they will be loved. And protected, Emma added seriously. I will protect them. Like you protect us. Yes, Marcus agreed. Like I protect all of you. After Emma went to bed, Sarah and Marcus stood on the balcony overlooking the territory, the same spot where she had chosen him 6 months ago, where she had chosen this impossible life. Do you regret it? Marcus asked quietly. Giving up your normal life for all of this, Sarah thought about the question honestly. She had given up a lot. Her old job, her farmhouse, the simple routine of human existence. She had gained danger, complexity, a world of politics and power she barely understood. But she had also gained love, purpose, a family that was strange and blended and absolutely perfect. Not for a second, she said. Marcus pulled her close and Sarah rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled at the moon. Her wolves, her pack, her family. The scent of her had brought him back to life that night in the Montana rain. Vanilla and autumn rain and blood. Now it was vanilla and autumn rain and home. It was not the life Sarah had planned, but it was the life she had chosen. And that made all the difference.